Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and this is going to be my non-spoiler reading vlog of Tempting Venom by Rina Kent. So this is the third and final book in her Vipers trilogy. And I did reviews for the first two books in this series, so I'll leave my Vipers playlist linked for you, and also my Rina Kent playlist, because I've been reading her books for 2 to 3 years now. This is the first romance in this trilogy, and I was really looking forward to it because all these books take place around the same time. So how this vlog is going to be structured is the first part and the biggest part will be like the non-spoiler part. Like I will try my hardest not to spoil anything. And if there are some spoilers, it's going to be very mild spoilers, nothing that spoils major plot points or anything. Then I really want to rank the Viper series. And I do want to talk spoilers, but I'll leave that towards the very end. So if you have read this book and want to know my spoilery thoughts, wait until the very end, but I will also have timestamps below. So yes, without further ado, let's cue to the vlog of me reading Tempting Venom by Rina Kent. Excuse my appearance. We're currently having a massive heat wave in the Netherlands, and today is like the hottest day of this heat wave, and I'm slowly dying. But, you know, I really wanted to talk about Tempting Venom because I am a good ways through. I am on chapter 13. Before I get started, I do have to say, you can watch this video without having read any of these books, but I do think you should just read these books in order. I don't know if Rina says it herself. Anyway. You follow Marcus and Preston. And Preston, of course, well, both of them we've seen around in the first two books because Preston is, you know, part of the three Vipers. The MMCs of the first two books are his best friends. And because of that, we have heard a lot about Preston and his past and the awful things that have happened in his past. Rina, at least where I'm at now, doesn't go too in detail of what happened. I do think we'll get that later on when he maybe explains those things to Marcus. But for now, it is implied, but you don't know for certain if you're just starting out with this book. And Preston is the captain of the Vipers' rivals captain. And he actually dated Dahlia, the FMC of the first book, for like 2 or 3 weeks. So we have seen him mainly in the first book. So they are rivals. They are known to be rivals. And Marcus is like the illegitimate child of the Osborne family. So in this world, there are 4 like founding families of this like cult, and each family controls a significant thing in the country. Like, for example, in the second book, Jude's family controlled like everything having to do with like the medical industry. I don't really remember what Preston's family or Marcus's family controls. I do explain it in my review of the first book, by the way, so check that out. So Marcus's family, the Osbornes, like they had, I believe his father had like 3 legitimate children, but the 2 men have died. So now, even though when Marcus was a child, he always wanted his father's attention, he never wanted his money, and his mother didn't either. But he just wanted, like, for example, the book starts off with Marcus on his 7th birthday. His father promised that he would like spend time with him on his birthday, and then his father flaked on him, and his mother and Marcus, they go and confront him, and he's just god awful. Like, it's clear when Marcus was a child, his father had no interest in him. But now that the Osbornes, they don't have any male heirs left, the only one left is Marcus. And even though he's illegitimate, it's still better than having a woman to lead their family. Marcus really has no interest, but he kind of likes the fact that his father needs him now. So it's not necessarily specified yet, but it seems like he just wants revenge for his father never paying him any mind, and only now that he needs him. So Marcus feels like he has like leverage over him. And to do that, he needs to get close to either one of the 3 members of the Vipers hockey team that are like senior members of Vancouver, which of course are Jude Kane is his name. It's my favorite book. In this trilogy, Kane. And Marcus kind of sets his eyes on Preston. Preston is having some real mental health issues. Something happened to him in his past, like I said, that very much affected him. He doesn't like touch. when he sleeps with women, he ties them up so they don't touch him. And he thrives on kind of getting under people's skin, especially during hockey matches. So he's very surprised whenever the Wolves, which is Marcus's team, and the Vipers go at each other, and Preston is trying to do like his usual shtick, like getting the other team riled up. So he's very surprised when Marcus turns the tables and he's actually the one that's getting riled up. And after that event, they kind of orbit each other. It's mainly Marcus putting himself in places where Preston is, basically. Marcus has had experiences with men, women. He doesn't really care. Preston thought he was straight his whole life. And in Vencor, and we saw that in the book Kiss the Villain, Vencor really, like it says in this book, they execute their gay members. So it is like high stakes. He cannot actually be in a relationship with a man, nor does he really want to in this book. But Preston really likes, which he didn't know before, Marcus makes him realize that Preston likes whenever somebody inflicts him pain. So he's a masochist, and Marcus is definitely a sadist. So they obviously match. And Preston is very surprised that he gets turned on whenever Marcus hurts him. And even though Preston has been hurt before, in fact, his father seems to like abuse him or get somebody else to beat him whenever Preston doesn't comply to his standards. That never turned him on. It is specifically Marcus that he gets turned on by whenever he hurts him. So far they've had a couple interactions where Marcus basically spanks him and they both kind of get off on it. Both of them are keeping secrets from each other because obviously Marcus doesn't know what happened in Preston's past, and it's clear that Marcus has some plan he's concocting to either get back at Vencor in general or at the very least like the Osborne family. This book I actually received early. I pre-ordered it and I received it in the mail like a week before. It is like I am reading this a bit slow. I don't know why, but right now where I'm at, I am really, really into this book. I do have to say, and I feel it's unfair to criticize this book for doing it because she also does it in her MF romances. Like in her MF romances, the MMCs are very, very similar to each other. Like there's a couple here and there that are different, but most of them that I've read at least are very similar to each other. So I feel it's unfair to say that about the MM romances of hers, but Preston is very, very similar to Nikolai and Julian. I feel like in her MM romances, the only one that's a bit different is Kiss the Villain. So yeah, and even though it is kind of switched because in here it is obviously Preston that's the more submissive one and it's Marcus who's the more dominant one, but especially Preston's inner monologue is very, very similar to Nikolai and Julian from God of Fury and Hunt the Villain. But like I said, I mean, that is just par for the course for Rina Kent. If you don't want like recycled MMCs, then you probably should read her books. Having said that, I am very intrigued to find out how their romance is going to develop. And obviously I heard Preston's ordeal, like I've heard what he's been through. So from the very beginning, even though I do have to admit that his inner monologue sometimes is very, very annoying, I am prone to liking him simply because I know what kind of trauma he's been through in his life. Also, I forgot to mention in my synopsis, this book and pretty much all the books in the Viper series take place around the same time. So yeah, in this book, Dahlia and Cain, they like the events you see, you've already seen in the other books, like some big events. And yeah, so it's not like this book takes place, like maybe the last part, but where I'm at now, it does take place around the time the other books take place. I do have to say, this book has a lot of hockey in it. Not necessarily them playing hockey, but hockey gets mentioned a lot. They have had 2 sexual experiences either on the hockey rink or in the locker room, which makes sense because these 2 are rivals. Obviously, both of them are hockey players, and Marcus really wants to join the NHL, it seems like. So I do enjoy that. Obviously, we're reading a dark hockey romance. I do like seeing more of the sport you're writing about, so I do enjoy that. So so far I'm enjoying it. I don't want to make any predictions yet of like where it will be. I do know, like, obviously I gave the second book 2 stars, so I do think this one will be better than the second book. But then on the other hand, with the second book, it was mostly like the last 100 pages that brought it down to a 2. So I'll have to see. I don't want to make any predictions yet. But so far, especially now, like, I guess in the last, like, whenever they actually had some meaningful interactions, that's when I really started enjoying this book and wanted to read more. So today I don't really have a lot going on, and since it's so hot, I cannot really do a whole lot. So I'm just gonna continue reading it. Since I have this book early in my hands, normally I really love to tandem read Rina Kent's book, so listen to the audiobook while reading it. Obviously I cannot do that because technically this book is not out yet. If I really love this book, I do think I wanna listen to it as well, like later, reread it while listening to it. But for now, I am enjoying it. I'm having a good time. So what I wanted to say is, since I don't really have a lot going on, since it's so hot, like I can't really clean a lot, I can't really take a walk or something, most of what I'm going to be doing is reading this book. So I do hope to get a good chunk of the way through today. Right now it is like 12:30, so I do think I can manage. I also have to like study for something, so we'll see. Let's look at these two. Very cute together. So yes, I'm gonna continue. Alrighty, I just finished Tempting Venom like an hour ago, and if you hear some noise in the background, I have my fan on, as you can see by my hair that is going all over the place because it's fucking hot. We're currently having a heat wave here in the Netherlands, so I'm sweating and I'm dying over here. And this book didn't help because it's also a very hot book. So, but anyway, really, like, I hope you can't hear it. It's not too loud. So anyway, I finished, and okay, so I have some thoughts because up until like the last 100 pages, I was really loving it. Like, I mean, I loved this book, but I was really debating, okay, did I love it more than Beautiful Venom? Because Beautiful Venom so far was my favorite in this trilogy, and honestly one of my favorite Rina Kent books. And this book was giving Beautiful Venom a run for its money. Like, I really was enjoying it. I love the relationship between these two. Although I do have some criticisms about that, which I'll let you know later. But whenever they were together, I thought they were great together. Rina explained very well why they worked so well together. And Preston, while I did have some issues with him, I really liked seeing his character progression and like the things he has honestly really been struggling with. And like, I'm not gonna lie, their sex scenes were like some of the hottest I've ever read by Rina Kent. So I was having a great time. I was really loving it. The last 100 pages though, since these books take place around the same time, and the last 100 pages of Sweet Venom I despised, and Preston had a big part in that. Obviously we're gonna see the same thing, like the same plot point happening here, and I don't want to spoil it. And while I understood it a bit more in Preston's own book, and while my heart was breaking for Marcus having to go through that, I initially had major problems with the fact that Rina decided to add that plot point in. And that is one of the reasons why I gave Sweet Venom, the second book, 2 stars, because it bothered me that much. Now, I knew I probably wasn't gonna punish this book for the same plot point twice because she's already decided that. And of course, it would be even weirder had she decided to change the whole plot, even though Preston had a lot to do with that plot. So I knew it was coming. And I do feel like, even though I hated it, she did handle it the best way in this book, in my opinion. Like, even though I hated it, she didn't do anything that made me hate it even more. So therefore, I kind of just removed that from the equation. So ultimately, I ended up settling for a 4.5, which sucks because I do genuinely think if that whole plot line wasn't happening and wasn't a thing in this trilogy, this would have been a 5 stars. And like I said, I would be seriously debating right now whether or not I actually loved it more than Beautiful Venom. But 4.5, obviously I still loved it. Yes, I do have some criticism. A big criticism as well is I feel like Preston, yes, I know he's described as being petty, and he is, but okay, so he has issues with Dahlia, which that was clear from the very first book. It wasn't very clear why he hated her, I don't think. I read that book a year ago, so I genuinely don't really remember if it was explained why he had issues with her and why he didn't have issues with Violet. Although that was kind of explained, I guess. but the fact that he kept having issues with her throughout this entire book and he kept calling her by different names, that was petty, annoying, and childish. And while yes, I did like seeing his jealous side, it made no sense for a relation, like not even a relationship. Like you cannot even call it a relationship. You can't even call it a situationship. They dated for like 2 weeks. That's it. Kane doesn't seem to have any issues with it. So how about you move on, okay? Like don't, like the fact that he's, like I said, there was no point in this book where he treated Dahlia normally or just called her by her name. And I know, like, I guess she wanted to make it like his personality quirk. Same for like Annika in God of Pain, having her personality be that she loves the color purple, or in Cruel King that Astrid is obsessed with Vikings. Like she seems to do that in her books, having her characters have like one thing that they fixate on. I guess this is Preston's, but it was annoying and unnecessary in my opinion. And Dahlia is one of my favorite Rina Kent characters, so I guess I'm a bit protective over her. It's not the worst thing, but it did make, even though obviously I really love Preston, and yes, I very much felt sorry for him, and yes, I was rooting for him, anytime after like halfway through, anytime he kept antagonizing Dahlia and calling her by a different name, I just got annoyed with it. I'm not gonna lie, that is just like personal preference, I guess. I don't know if a lot of other people would be bothered by it. So 4.5, I would highly recommend it, but as I said earlier, I'm pretty sure you cannot really read this without reading the first 2 books. In fact, I do hope one day somebody makes like a list that you can tandem read this, and I really wanted one for Legacy of Gods. I don't know if that exists. You'll have to let me know if you do know if it exists, but I feel like if you tandem read these books, especially tandem read these 2, I feel like it would just hit a bit harder. Now let's talk about this relationship between these 2, because yes, while I really loved it, I am the type of reader that really loves it if I actually get to see my couple happy and in love, even if it's just for snippets here and there. And while I did love these 2 together, and like I said, while I did think their sex scenes were scorching hot, and while she did explain a lot that made me sympathize, they never really spent any alone time together, just the 2 of them doing like mundane things. And the only time they actually did those things, another person was present. And that kind of bothered me. Like, I get it, this is a forbidden romance. Vancouver members who are gay get killed. I get that they couldn't be out in the open. I get that they couldn't actually tell the world that they were boyfriend and boyfriend, but they could still just, I don't know, watch a movie together or have dinner together, just the 2 of them. And we barely got to see any of that. What we got to see instead was them having amazing sex. Marcus pretty much doing anything Preston wants and being very attuned to his limits and stuff like that, and then Preston just running away. And like I said, we did get like a handful of like more sweeter moments together that had nothing to do with sex, but there was always another person present, so then that doesn't count in my opinion. Like obviously it counts that like I love those scenes and it was heartwarming, but it didn't fulfill my want of just seeing these 2 alone in like a romantic thing. And maybe that, and I get that that's probably not the book for it, but then on the other hand, I have read like darker romances by Rina Kent, obviously, and also like forbidden ones, her MM ones, where we did get to see those, and I just prefer those. What I did love, however, is like it was clear in this book that this was very much the beginning of their relationship, and I did like if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna write a romance like that, I want the characters to be honest, that they don't know everything about the other one, or that there's stuff they genuinely still want to know about them. Not like pretend, like that is one of my pet peeves in romances where it's clear that the romance is not fully developed yet, but the characters pretend like they are, like they've never felt this way about another person, or they never trusted somebody as much as they trust the other one. Although I do have to say that did happen in this book, but I felt like it was explained a bit better. And I also liked that these characters acknowledge to themselves and to others that yes, they don't know the other person quite 100% yet, but what they do know they love, or they're intrigued, and I do enjoy that. I did love Marcus and Preston together in the bedroom. I liked how it was like they were very compatible, and I really enjoyed how Marcus could see through Preston, the way Preston was acting or saying things or not saying things, where his limits were, and he never questions his limits. And even though, yes, sometimes it felt a bit unbalanced, it felt like Marcus obviously was doing more than Preston. Preston was always running away. Aside from the running away, I did like that Marcus just never questioned why Preston didn't want to do certain things. It was just like, okay, you don't want to do that, we're just going to do something else then. And I did love that, and I like how it was acknowledged in the text that Preston saw that and he did appreciate it. I also really loved, like I said, this also has to do with Marcus being so observant in the bedroom, but also outside of it. Like, I really love the fact that Marcus, from the very beginning, could sense whenever Preston was checked out, or whenever Preston was disassociating, or whenever Preston was, like, something was different about him, that Marcus clocked it. And also that he tried in little ways, and they did work to get him through that. Like, for example, just holding him and then breathing and telling him, okay, so just breathe, like listen to the way I'm breathing and breathe with me. I did really love that. Like, I did think, like I said, I did think they were compatible. It made sense for me why Preston let Marcus in, why he trusted him. And also, I don't know, I feel like it was explained why Preston, who has always wanted control in the bedroom, who always slept with girls, now why Marcus is like the different one, why Marcus is the special one. I did enjoy that. Going back to something that bothers me a bit, and like I said, that kind of also has to do with like the unbalanced nature of that relationship. Obviously it's explained, like obviously Preston has gone through way more than Marcus, and Preston is the one with all the hang-ups really. So it makes sense that more time was spent in this book on Preston and Preston's issues and Preston's character development. But I do feel like I genuinely don't know Marcus well at all. Like, especially not compared to Preston. So this book, yes, it is like almost 600 pages. I did feel like I wanted more, and what I wanted more was more about Marcus. Like, I just wanted to know more about him, because really we only knew, like, he only had his mom really, and we barely really got to see his mom. And like the only time we actually got to see her, Preston was present, and once again it was mostly Preston bonding with his mom. So I would have liked more scenes between Marcus and his mom, or even Marcus and his neighbor, like the woman who would babysit him whenever his mom was working. And I also would have loved if Marcus also had like a friend. So yes. And I've said it before, I don't want to be too harsh on Preston, because obviously like I cannot even imagine what he went through. And I just felt so unbelievably sorry for him. I just wanted to give him a hug and tell him everything was going to be all right, like the things he went through and the effect that had on his life. I do feel like, even though sometimes I have issues with Rina Kent portraying mental health things, especially if the mental health has something to do with the plot, like it's like a plot device, I did like, especially towards the end, how Preston's personality was explained, why he's the way he is due to his trauma. So I did like that. And obviously, like, I just felt so sorry for him. Like, this really broke my heart. Like, there were times when I was reading this book where I just almost wanted to throw up with how sad, and like I felt so sorry for him. And like I said, I did feel like Rina did a good job with that. So I think those are my thoughts really. Like, I really loved it. It is one of my favorite Rina Kent books. And in fact, it is one of my favorite Rina Kent. Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite. I feel like she did a good job overall, even though, yes, obviously I still had some criticisms, but overall, like, I was very much engaged in this book. I was intrigued. I wanted to know what was going on. Whenever I wasn't reading it, I was thinking about these characters. And I do feel like I really liked overall, like, the whole Viper trilogy. I did like it overall. Yes, the second book didn't get the highest rating from me, but I liked these three. I liked hearing about this like secret organization and the ties it has to the Villains trilogy. There are some things I just cannot really talk too much about because they're just spoilers. So I want to go more in detail about some things I already mentioned, but I'll just look at this hair. I'll just wait until the spoiler section. Overall, I would recommend it, but I feel like you really have to read these books in order, really. So yes, those are my thoughts on Tempting Venom, 4.5 stars. Let's do the tier ranking for the Vipers trilogy. So my least favorite is Sweet Venom. I gave this book 2 stars. Like I said, check my review for more of my in-depth thoughts. I really didn't love this book. So obviously it's my least favorite. Then after that is Tempting Venom. I gave this book 4.5 stars. And obviously I already talked about my feelings about this one. And then my favorite, which surprises me, is Beautiful Venom, because if you watch my review, if you watch my vlog for it, you can see that I was convinced that even though I really loved it, I gave it 5 stars. I was convinced that I was gonna love the other two more than this one. So color me surprised that this one turned out to be my favorite. So, but it's the only 5-star in this trilogy, really. Yes, let me actually calculate my average rating for this trilogy. It's a 3.8, which makes, like, obviously, like, even though I gave one 4.5 stars and the other 5, I gave one 2 stars. So obviously that would affect the rating. Alrighty, I already finished like my spoilery review, and I just realized I really wanted to talk about this whole trilogy in general, but especially comparing, like, really explaining why I love Beautiful Venom the most, especially comparing it to Tempting Venom, aside from my criticisms for the third book. Okay, so why did I love Beautiful Venom so much is, okay, so this trilogy was, I remember it being sold as like this, like more dark academia, secret society type of romance, and I feel like that was only really true in Beautiful Venom. Yes, in the other two, obviously Vencor was a part of it, since all the MMCs in this book were part of Vencor. But I really liked in Beautiful Venom how atmospheric it was. I really liked the whole mystery thing of Dahlia finding out what happened to her sister, the whole initiation thing. I did really like that whole thing. I liked finding out a lot about Vencor. Like, it felt like more of a menacing thing in this book, whereas I feel like in these two books, but especially in Tempting Venom, I feel like the legs were cut out underneath the whole Vencor thing. I don't know if that is the way you use that phrase, but I feel like I wasn't as scared of Vencor. Anytime there was like a threat of Vencor, it didn't bother me. It didn't feel like they were as powerful as they were portrayed to be in Beautiful Venom, and I just preferred the way it was done in Beautiful Venom. So aside from like the romances, obviously you can have favorites or whatever, I feel like the world building was better in the first book, and I feel like it was more consistent in the first book, and I feel like everything that was set up in this book, world building wise, Vencor wise, like even this town that felt like this haunted, spooky, atmospheric, gothic place almost, that just wasn't a thing in these two books. Like, these two books could have been set in any other Rina Kent series and I wouldn't have noticed a thing, whereas I feel like this felt very much different than all the other Rina Kent books I read. It felt more unique, and I really wish the other two books would have been a bit more like this one, I guess, a bit more atmospheric. I just wanted Vencor to be like a bigger thing in the other two books, I guess. Another thing why this one really is my favorite is Dahlia is like my favorite FMC. Like, I think she is my favorite Rina Kent FMC. So that is also why I just have more of a soft spot for this one. So yeah, I hope it made sense. And I don't know if you feel the same way. Let me know if you do. I would really love to know what your favorite Vipers book is. So yeah, give me all your thoughts. While I have you here, let's do a tier ranking of Rina Kent's romances, because she has written 4 now. And I was thinking I was gonna do a reel about this, but I figured, you know, if you don't watch reels, I would like to give you my opinions on it. So yes, my least favorite romance by Rina Kent is Kiss the Villain. I actually reviewed all of these books, by the way, so I'll have that linked for you. But Kiss the Villain, I gave 3 stars. I ultimately just didn't believe in their romance, so that's why it was a 3. Then in number 4 is Hunt the Villain. I gave this book 4 stars. Then my second favorite romance by Rina Kent is Tempting Venom, which of course I gave 4.5 stars. And then obviously my favorite romance, I'm pretty sure everybody's favorite romance by Rina Kent, is God of Fury, which I gave 5 stars. So this is my ranking of the Rina Kent romance. Alrighty, so this is gonna be the end of the non-spoiler section. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Rina Kent book is, and if you've read multiple romances by her, let me know what your favorite romance is by her. Give me all your thoughts. And if you made it this far into the vlog, leave me a snake emoji for the Vipers. Yeah, leave me a like if you thought this was a helpful review. And for those who are sticking around, the next part is going to be all spoilers. So I hope that you have read Tempting Venom. Otherwise, you're going to get spoiled dramatically. Okay, so what did I want to talk about? Okay, so obviously the plot point I'm talking about is the whole Preston dying situation. Okay, so if you watched my review for Sweet Venom, then you know that I despised that storyline because obviously I knew Preston was gonna have his own romance. That was clear in the text since the first book, and like she mentions it, I'm pretty sure in every book at the end that he's gonna have his own romance. Yeah, so in Beautiful Venom at the end, when she has the what's next section, it says this series continues with Sweet Venom featuring Jude and Violet's story, and Tempting Venom, which follows Preston and Marcus. So I knew Preston was gonna have his own romance, so I knew that he wasn't actually dead. So any emotional plot beats that happened after his death, it didn't affect me because I knew he was gonna have his own romance with his own HEA. So I never believed he was dead. So whenever his friends were crying over him, whenever Violet was crying over him, whenever everybody, like his family was crying over him, I knew, like I didn't feel the same emotions because I knew, like I just wanted to get through that section because I knew somehow he wasn't gonna be dead. The same goes for Tempting Venom, but even worse because in the second book, we already found out that he wasn't dead. We found out what happened. We found out how they tricked everybody by pretending that he was dead, right? So to have that in this book, it was doubly, like I doubly really didn't feel anything since I knew, first of all, he was alive. I already knew how he was alive. Like I knew all of that. I knew he was in a coma. I knew, like that was all explained in the book before it. Yeah, but like I said, I didn't really want to punish this book because there were a lot of things I really loved about it, so I didn't want to give it a 3 because it didn't feel like a 3-star book. Plus I knew going into this book that this was going to be a plotline that was going to happen. Having said all that, it did break my heart to see Marcus going through everything, like going through the motions of thinking the man he loves died. I did feel like she did a good job portraying that, especially after he had to read the letter explaining everything that Preston went through. So I did feel like, even though I didn't really feel sad for Preston dying because I knew he wasn't actually dead, it did break my heart because obviously Marcus thought that he was dead. And, you know, it was very sad seeing Marcus finally finding out everything that had happened to Preston in the past, and also thinking that his boyfriend died. I feel like she did a good job. So I felt sorry for Marcus, even though I didn't shed any tears throughout that section. And I honestly don't know what she could have done differently to make it like a more emotional plot line. I don't know. I just feel like it shouldn't have been a plot line in this trilogy, honestly. One thing that did, so I don't really remember. So obviously in Beautiful Venom, we find out that Preston was SA'd by his teacher. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really remember that he was also SA'd by his stepfather. So I do feel like that was new information. It just broke my heart. And like I said, I just feel like Rina did a good job with explaining why he's the way that he is, why he doesn't like being called pretty, why he is the fact that these men did this to him, it just broke my heart. Like it was so fucking sad. Yeah, especially like this is what I wanted to read in the non-spoiler section, but I just decided against it. This scene, these couple of lines just broke me. Okay, so this is, oh yeah, this is when Preston is drunk. Yeah. And he's in the car on top of the cliff and he is calling Marcus. And Marcus, even over the phone, realizes that there's something wrong. Preston ends up telling him, "Mom can't see this anymore, you know?" When Marcus asks why not, Preston says, "She's dead, genius. Killed herself because I'm such a failure." And Marcus says, "You, a failure? I thought you were the best man to have ever been born. God's gift to humans." Preston says, "I'm not. I just say that in case I believe it one day." Stop. That is so sad to me. That just breaks my heart. It's just so fucking sad. Yeah. Like, it was a very sad book. Like, Even though, yes, even with the whole plot line of me not being sad about the fact that he supposedly died, everything else just was very heartbreaking and very sad. Also, there was a plot line. I don't know. I feel like, I guess we're gonna get that in the next villains book with Cyrus. But okay, so I was very intrigued with this whole Patient X storyline and everything Sabrina's her name, or Serena said about like their half brother. And I was just so intrigued to find out more about that. So later, like at the end of epilogue 2, we find out that it's actually Cyrus. So I guess we're gonna get that in that book, but I really wanted more information in Tempting Venom. Like, I was very intrigued with that plot line, even though obviously it really didn't have a whole lot to do with it, but I feel like she set that up, and I really hope we're gonna get a good payoff in Cyrus's book. So yeah, I guess those are my spoilery thoughts. So let me know. I'm assuming if you're here, you have read this book. So let me know all your thoughts. What did you think of it? And let me know what your favorite Vipers book is. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.